welcome to another episode of Soul Food with Flex. I'm your host, Flex, and I'm so honored to have my guest with me today. Again, another guest that I reached out through via Instagram, but was willing to come on the platform and to share his story and his life and what he's getting up to right now. So if you could just introduce yourself, please, Ush.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Eric Leosonga Jr. Kalolo. Most of you might know me as Eric Blanc on my socials, but the name Blanc, there's a whole story behind that as well. But yeah, thanks for having me on your podcast, Us.
No, the honor's mine, man. I'm so grateful for you jumping on. Like I was like looking through your Instagram and your YouTube channel just before we started, and I was like, man, I'm genuinely interested in your story and the things that you're up to right now, which we'll definitely talk about. But you said there's a story behind the Blanc. If you could just, do you mind sharing that story with us?
Yeah. So the name Blanc, I created the name when I was at Howard College, because my dream was always to start my own fashion label, and Eric Blanc was the title. So Blanc was the title, but the name Blanc was birthed from the fact that I was just trying to find a name for my label and I couldn't think of a name. My mind was blank. So that's how I came up with the name Blanc. But figuratively speaking as well, the word blank, it's like a blank canvas. Like as creatives, having a blank canvas allows you the opportunity to, be who you want to be, do what you want to do. But being a young teenager, I didn't know exactly where my life was going to go. So all I knew was that I wanted to be part of the creative arts in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, like it was a good way because, it also, like for me, it meant that I could learn, grow, develop, and like mold myself into the image of the brand that I wanted other people to perceive me as. So that's how the name Blanc came up.
No, I love the whole concept. It was simple, but also how you put it. Being a blank canvas and being able to do whatever you want to do. That's definitely one of the messages that I push on this platform. That us as Polynesians, we shouldn't be caged in into one thing, and definitely seek.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome, man. So, where did life start for you? Where did it begin?
So I was born from Auckland, South Auckland, in Papatoetoe. So I was born on 28th of November 1990 at Green Lane Hospital, Women's Hospital. But yeah, I'm from Papatoetoe. I grew up in Papatoetoe. I went to Papatoetoe Central. My family's there, my grandma's there. Majority of my family is still back in Auckland. About half is there, half is here. And I moved to Brisbane, Australia in 1998, I think, or 1999. So that's when I moved to Brisbane. And then moved back to Australia.
So do you have any early childhood memories over there in New Zealand?
Yeah, my memories are all with my family. I always grew up with family around me. And those are the memories that I hold closest to me. And that's what I miss the most about Auckland is having everyone together. Our family, although we're still quite close, but half and half, like we're all separated because we all live in separate countries now. But definitely my family, also church. Best memories back in Auckland because my family is at Whakasa, so we used to go to Papatoetoe Whakasa. But yeah, those are the best memories for me back in Auckland as a child was, just family and church.
No, I love it, eh? I didn't even know that you were from Auckland, but that's something that I've also been trying to change is the stigma put upon people from Auckland and South Auckland and
Auckland definitely, because everyone thinks that if you come from South Auckland, you're a certain type of person, and they stereotype and they box you into the stereotype. But there's so much more to South Auckland Polynesians than what the media puts out there to be. So I'm proud that I'm from South Auckland. But yeah, just life for me has taken me in different directions. Like I moved to Brisbane, and then my family moved back to Auckland in 2005. We lived in Howick, finished schooling in Howick, and then I moved back to Brisbane in 2012, and I've been here ever since. So I've been back and forth.
Yeah. So with high school, what high school did you attend?
In Brisbane,
Yeah.
or
Oh, yeah.
oh,
Did you go to two separate ones?
so I only went to primary school in New Zealand, and then
Yeah.
when we moved to Brisbane, I went to Forest Lake Primary and Forest Lake State High School, and then I moved back to Brisbane and Auckland, and I went to Howard College.
Yeah. No, during those high school years, I always, feel those years are, where a lot of your characters developed and almost like, and a lot of the soul searching. So, like, what was your life like in high school?
Um, my high school was probably one of the best years of my life here in Australia and New Zealand because I had to split it. But it was just fun. It was always school was fun. Dad always just be like, "Oh, we funny call walk. Like no friends allowed. Like we weren't allowed to have friends around. Like when we were kids. So when we went to school, that was like our fun time because he couldn't see what we were doing. But yeah, it was just the friends that I made in school here in Oz, and then moving to Auckland and going to Howard. It was a different dynamic of people because here in Forest Lake at that time there was a lot of islanders that started coming over to Australia at the time. So Forest Lake, there was a lot of islanders there. So when I moved back to Auckland and I went to Howick, it was a whole different scene. It was like Asians and Indians, and that's where the name Howick comes from because there's so many Chinese people and Asians that live in Howick. But it was still an amazing experience, and growing up with those people. I shouldn't say those people, but different races, yeah, different races and cultures. And I think for me, it helped me grow as a person because I'm not always surrounded by Polynesian people, but I'm now being thrown into the mix with other cultures. So it helped me, I guess, grow as a person, understand other cultures and respect other people and learn to work cohesively with, different groups of people. So, it was a really good experience. Education was such an important thing to my parents. Like every day, my dad would be like, "Why do you go to school?" Our answer was to learn. Like I still remember him saying that, and I'm so grateful that that's the message that he like pretty much drilled into us because it's helped me in life.
No, I love that. You do get a great sense of understanding for other people's cultures and also an understanding of yourself that the environment and the
Mm,
upbringing that you have is different, and you gain a greater
yeah,
you gain a greater um, sense of gratitude for the way that you're being brought up, being around those other people. I definitely understand that.
yeah, no,
So was you know your sense of gravitating towards fashion, arts, and all those things. Was that early in you, or did that develop later on in life?
um, it happened when I was at Howard College. Like that's when I had an urge to like I just loved clothes. I loved fashion. Like I never took any styling classes. Like I never did any any of those types of subjects back in school. So obviously because Polynesians like they're like they're always questioning why are you doing that? What are you gonna get from that? So that was never something on my mind when I was back in school, but I knew that I wanted to do something that was creative. I just didn't know how I was going to, I guess, project that out to the world. But I mean, I did theater back in school. I did music. So I did like productions back in school, and then it just that creative spark in me. Just I was wanting more of it. So that's when I started like going into the fashion and the styling. And I didn't like, even though back then with Blanc, it was just in my mind. It wasn't until I met one of my good mates back in New Zealand, who's his name is Sam Cowley. He's also a fashion stylist. He was like my mentor at the time as well. But so some people might know him as Sammy Salsa. He did like he was a TV presenter. He's a singer, songwriter. So having him as my mentor at the time helped to develop my own skills in that industry. So yeah, no, I'm really grateful for him because he taught me a lot about that industry, and then I've kind of taken it and just put my own spin to it, and styling my own way, what I think looks good on people. But yeah, that's how it all started. It started back in Auckland.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I find it really cool that you were able to find like someone who could mentor in that field because I can only imagine that the amount of people that were doing it at that time was very small. It was a small bracket. Would you say that?
Very small. It was like there weren't many people at the time that was doing styling that I knew besides Sam. But I grew up with a really creative family anyway, like most Polynesians. We're always exposed to the arts in some way, shape, or form, like music or drama. A lot of us sing at church, play guitar, piano. Like it's something that's kind of, I feel like Polynesian people are very blessed to have that gift. I call it a gift because not many people like can you sing the song? Yeah, okay, cool. Give me a beat, give me a note. I can't sing, but like like in my mind, that's what it sounds like. um, but yeah, just there wasn't many people at the time. But now there's so many. Like everyone's into styling, into fashion. There's all these makeup artists, hairstylists, like photographers, videographers. Like the industry's huge now. But yeah, no, that's how it all started back in Auckland.
No, that's amazing. So from that mentorship and your friend helping you out with helping you find your own sense of style and your own vision of styling, where did that transition you to after school?
So it happened. Yeah. So the, that part of my life didn't happen until I started uni at AUT. And again at AUT, like I was in AUTSA, it's a Samoan group back in Auckland I was a part of. Again, that was a way for me to express my creative side because I never did like Polyfest. I was never in a Samoan group back in school. Obviously, being at Howard, I was like, what's Polyfest? Like, I just never knew what it was until I started uni. But that's when it all started, was when I started uni, like the styling, the fashion, and that's when I started getting exposed to that industry. Like I had a lot of mentors. Like there was also my cousin Lynette. She owns her own salon back in Auckland as well. She was a big part of my creative side and expressing myself creatively. But then there's also, I've got so many cousins that were like supporting me after they found out what I wanted to do. But yeah, no, that's when it all started, when I started uni. And when my parents weren't watching me 24/7 like a hawk, I was like, oh, I'm going to uni, but really.
No, I love that for you that you were able to have that big support from your family. Because I can only imagine if I was to tell my parents in that, I want to get into fashion and styling. I don't think I would have gotten a warm reception.
Oh, man, my parents did not know about like the whole fashion and styling thing until maybe um, last year or when I moved here, like the last 2 years. That's kind of when they started like seeing my work and stuff, because I kind of always kept it on the backbone. Like it was never really, I never really showed them any of my work that I was doing.
Dang, so when you were saying you're going to uni, what were they thinking?
Oh, I was going to uni.
Yeah.
Like, but
What were you going? What were they thinking behind you going to uni? Like, what subjects did they think you were studying?
oh, so when I was at uni though, I was doing Bachelor of Business. I was doing accounting, management, and HR. So those were my subjects that I was doing back in uni. It was always like business related, even though I didn't want to do that. But my parents really didn't pressure me to do anything as well. But I think as Polynesians, the expectation for us is to like excel in areas that Balinese and everybody else excels in, like being a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant. So it's like to Polynesians, I think maybe a lot of parents, they think that that's the only options that their kids will have to be successful in life. And I think that's also a fault of us as kids, Polynesian kids, for not expressing ourselves in a respectful way, so that they understand that I can also follow my dreams, follow my passion, and be successful and make a living and make money and still provide for your parents and your families. Because at the end of the day, that's what we do as Polynesians. Like we work to look after our families. So it's just that. So I did those subjects back in school, but if I had to go back, I'd probably do communications, something to do with creative arts like radio or TV, or fashion, or like learn how to sew clothes, like make clothes, like that sort of thing. I probably would have done or gravitated towards something like that, instead of doing business.
Yeah, but I think that's so pivotal, like what you just said, to express yourself to your parents in a respectful manner. Eh? But that takes a lot of courage to do, because you growing up in a traditional like Polynesian home, it's just pretty much do what you're told, eh? And so to have that courage
Yeah.
to express yourself
Not that I ever not that I ever expressed my stuff to them like really. But I think it's good advice for like, the younger generation to like, to start, I guess educating your parents as well, that, there's other options out there other than just being a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant, which are still amazing careers to have. But as an individual, if that's not your career, if that's not your purpose on earth, then you need to speak up. I was just fortunate enough to be able to balance all of that growing up, with like having a corporate career, or working in the corporate world, and then trying to balance like the fashion and styling and creative side of me as well. So I feel very blessed to be able to have both, and it's working for me. But everyone has to find a way to make it work for themselves. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So did you graduate with your business degree, or?
Nah, I didn't. I didn't graduate. But I didn't graduate from uni. I wish that I had put in more effort to graduate. But what I did, was I took all the tools and the skills that I learned, when I was doing my degree, my bachelor's, and I applied that to, I applied that to finding a job, that would be beneficial, to me and my family. So like, studying business, you learn, all these different skills that you can apply. So I was my first job, as a kid, I was a receptionist at Centrelink here in Inala. And I think I was 15 at the time, because my mom was a case manager at the time. So that's how, I got into working in that industry. Then my second job, I was working at the National Bank of New Zealand when we moved back to Howick. And I think at the time I was 16 or 17. And I thought to myself, oh, I might as well just work in finance for the rest of my life, because it's like, I don't find it too boring. You can make a living out of it. But then I started working in retail. I worked at Kmart, at Botany, and then from Botany I worked at Amazon. I don't know if Amazon's still around in Auckland. It's like a surf shop. And then I got into styling. And then I was doing styling. I was at uni, and then I just knew I didn't want to be at uni anymore. Business wasn't the path for me, so I took that and I applied for a job at Work and Income, and then I got a role at Work and Income. And I think at the time I was like the youngest person to have a job at Work and Income at the time. So to me it was a accomplishment. So I was really proud that I was able to work for a government agency at a young age. So I've been my work life has been, I don't know how to. I've just been working all my life.
Dude, those are some hard jobs to land. Doing working for Working Income and like Cinelink. You were able to get into those jobs really early. Did that give you confidence in life or any sort of confidence?
Oh yeah, no, it definitely it gave me confidence. Like for me, in that corporate world, it made me more mature because I was surrounded by businessmen, businesswomen. So in the corporate sense, I was very mature, but then on like my actual age, I was so immature. But I feel like for me, I was just lucky that my parents, my mom especially and my dad, they pushed me to always to learn. And I think I think for me, I was lucky because I could, I didn't just, it wasn't just books for me. I like education was everything, but I always knew that I needed to also find a way to learn how to, be a receptionist. I needed to learn how to do banking. So I did like unpaid. What do you call it? Like you're working for free, but it's
Like an
like
internship?
workplace.
Like an internship?
Yeah,
Unpaid.
yeah, like internship. Yeah, like internships. Because back in school, I don't even know if we had internships, but I did work placements, and that's how I got my skills in for government and banking. They were work placements, so it wasn't paid, but it looks good on paper. So that's how I kind of lived my life, like just doing jobs but not getting paid, but having it on my resume made me a strong candidate for a lot of the roles that I applied for. But yeah, so what was the question? Honestly, I talk so much, I just
Nah,
ramble on and I
you're
forget what. No.
nah, you're all good, brother. Honestly, I'm loving what you're sharing because you're building this thing where a lot of those skills, like you said, you didn't graduate from uni, but you were able to take those skills from there, and then now you're unpaid work with the banks and that. I'm sure you gained a lot of skills and knowledge from there, and then you're applying it to your current field, eh?
Yeah, definitely. I encourage like the younger generation to look into those types of options. It's not just like books and it's just not because back in school like I would consider myself, without sounding cocky, like I would consider myself quite intelligent. Um, fuck, I sound like such a cocky
Nah,
guy right
nah,
now.
nah. Before you
Like,
continue, before you continue, this is something that we Polynesians really struggle with. It's like gassing yourself up and speaking
yeah,
positive things about ourselves. But I'm all
mm,
for it. Eh? It's like when I hear people talk about positive traits or things that they have or are, like I'm here for it. Eh? Like honestly. So continue. You're saying you're an intelligent person.
I consider myself an intelligent person. Like back in school, I did calculus, I did stats, I did accounting, I did those business subjects. But I struggled so hard. But it was, but I knew for me I had to like pursue it and succeed in those subjects because I thought for me that's the only way I could prove myself to my parents that I can be successful because I'm going up against like singers like Asians and Caucasian people, Western people, Indians, because we consider them as like being very intelligent people. Polynesians, we look at those people like, oh, they're so smart. Why they sing like that? Like, our parents are always like that. So it's kind of instilled in us that we need to be like that. We need to be successful, and we need to pass those subjects to be successful to the outside world, the outside people, outside of your own family. But if I had pursued it 100%, I know I would have passed. I know I would have graduated, but my heart wasn't in it. So I didn't want to do something my heart wasn't in, because I'm wasting my time when I could be, doing something better with my time. But at the same time, it's also, because I didn't graduate from uni, I needed to make sure that I had a backup plan, because my parents were going to be like, so what are you going to do now? So my backup plan was working and supporting them and helping with our family. So, yeah.
No, I love what you said is like, if your heart's not in it, then, it's best that you do pursue what your heart is in, because like you said, if your heart's not in it and you're constantly doing this draining thing that your heart is, telling yourself not to do, you eventually, you're going to break down, eh? So
yeah, no, definitely.
I can only assume, the passion and, love that you have for your fashion and your styling, because I was watching your YouTube channel just before, like I said, man, you just look happy, eh? And that's what I want for our people, is like to do things that bring them happiness, because we can do it, man, if you seek it, eh?
Yeah, and everybody has a choice to be happy. You've just gotta find your happiness.
Yeah. So yeah, I was flicking through your Instagram, and it's like, it's pretty much not the finished product, because you're constantly evolving, you're constantly growing and learning as an individual. But like, what I'm seeing is a finished product, and it's awesome to see, like, you're doing all these things. You're modeling for Johnny Biggs, and you're designing, you're styling people. So like, I want to get to the struggles of getting to this point, like, because I remember seeing one of your posts. You said you'd been waiting all your life to be where you were, and like, I want to get to the struggles and obstacles that you encountered in getting to where you are.
I think the biggest struggle is obviously not being white, and I hate to put it down to that, but as a person of color, going into an industry like that, in Australia and New Zealand, at the time, there wasn't many of us at that time, and obviously the color of our skin can sometimes be, I hate to say it, but a negative thing, because those types of those industries, a lot of the faces you see and the representation that we see as consumers is white people, Caucasian people. You know what I mean? I mean, also, I'm not slim. Like, I'm not a slim person. So like that also, I don't fit the stigma and the image of the fashion industry, because there was no diversity at the time. So it's really good to see that there's a lot more diversity now. So that was one of the biggest struggles for me with the modeling thing, because I did runway. I did runway a couple of times back in New Zealand when I was in high school, but at the time I was a lot slimmer. I could fit into the balangi sizes, as we like to call it, and obviously it just grew and grew and grew, and then modeling just never became something that I wanted to do anymore, because my confidence levels for modeling had just been bashed. I wasn't confident in myself to be able to become a model, that the typical model, if you put it that way. And then with the styling, after I moved back to Brisbane, it was really dead for me at the time. So I only started styling again about 3 years ago. But that was, for me, the struggle was moving back to Australia and having to set my foundations again and work myself up again. Because in New Zealand, I had a little bit of a platform. I had the support, and I had a good network, and I had good connections and relationships there. So it was a lot easier for me to be in that industry. But moving back to Australia, obviously it's a lot harder. Being a person of color, I feel like here in Australia, that's the first thing that they see when they look at somebody. They're like, oh yeah, they're Polynesian. Oh no, he doesn't fit our image. Like, it's still very, I guess, diversity isn't there yet. Like, representation isn't there yet. Even though, modeling for Johnny Big now, it's an achievement for me. It's something that I'm very proud of. Not that I don't really show how much pride I have in being successful in being able to be in their spring campaign for 2020. Like, that's something that's huge, but I'm not, like, I haven't celebrated as big as I've wanted to, because it's something like, I don't know, but those are the struggles. It's just, I guess, color, size, just, I don't fit the image that the industry wants or expects of models. And with styling, trying to network with people and working with designers, because you don't have that backing, a lot of them turn you down. They're like, nah, we don't want to give you any clothes. Nah, we don't want to give you any clothes. But it just takes one person or one designer to believe in you and to give you an opportunity. And her name is Jazz from Peace Lady Designs. She was the she's here in Brisbane in the Sunshine, I think, the Sunshine Coast. She was my break here in Brisbane when it comes down to styling and getting myself back into fashion. She offered me an opportunity to style one of her photo shoots, and then I think that would have been 2 years ago now. And then from that, more opportunities started to come my way. But it was a lot of, nah, we don't want you. Nah, we don't want to give you this. There was a lot of no's. But that one yes from Jazz is the reason why I'm able to do what I love to do, like my passion, which is styling. So yeah, it hasn't been that. I make it like, social media is such a front, eh? Like everyone sees, oh, far out. Like, everyone sees what we want people to see, but behind, like, behind closed doors, oh man, it's such a struggle. But, people don't like to show and express their struggles sometimes, which I think is sad. Even for me, like, I don't like talking about my struggles, because like it's that kind of like, oh man, I hated it so much. It just brings back, like, negativity, but it's good. I feel like, it's good to talk about it, because then other people can learn from it, and it will help other people with their journey as well. So I guess I'm grateful for you for bringing me on to your podcast to talk about it, because I honestly have never spoken out loud about this before.
No, I genuinely invest in the struggles of people's stories, because those things, like you said, it's learning that this actor, was, declined so many times at auditions. It's the singer, where record labels don't want to sign them for many, many years, and then they finally get their break. In yourself, going to these different designers and getting the no constantly, and then the one person who believes in you. Shout out to Jazz, wherever you are, for believing in Eric. It's those stories. Like, I find so much motivation, and it brings a hunger in me to chase my dreams. Despite all the obstacles and the no's and all those things.
Yeah, like, it's not easy, definitely not easy, but it's just making sure that you're consistent and you don't give up on yourself.
But like, with yourself, like, I'm happy that you're sharing it, because, like I said, what I saw on your Instagram is like, it's like a finished product. You've gotten to this certain point in life where you're able to model now. You're able to, style these people. People asking you to collab with them. Those sort of things. If people can see those things and be like, oh, it's easy. It's easy. But we don't see how hard of a struggle and the road that you had to walk to get to where you are today.
I guess it's discouraging for a lot of people to hear those no's. Like, it's like it is. It's tough, and it's a tough industry as well. I've still got a long way to go. But I just got to be, consistent, keep that fire burning, keep the passion there. And eventually you'll get there someday. Just you got to keep working at it, which is something I'm doing every day. I'm still working hard at it. It's not easy, even though it might look like everything is all good, like on your social medias, but the struggle is real.
100%. No, but I'm really grateful that you opened up about that, because you showing your vulnerability. There could be Polynesian that watch this, that want to enter your field and think about the obstacles that what we're predominantly seeing as white people. So my chances of making it is slim. But then hearing your struggles and you overcoming that struggle to finally land something, it might give them the edge to be like, I'll just chase it. I'll do it. I can do it.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah. So, um, yeah. So this expression jazz picks you up. Where to from there?
So I started working with Jazz, and then Marina Marcos. She's like a couture designer here in Brisbane. I've worked with Dar Bridal. His like gowns are amazing. So there's been like I've worked with a lot of I've worked with a couple of designers now, and models. Like I'm starting to build my own networks and connections now, which is awesome, because that's what I needed. So it's cool now that I can, like, now that I'm thinking about it, I've never actually thought about it, but like, if I was to look into my phone, I know who to call if I need a photographer. I know who to call if I need a makeup artist. I know who to call if I need clothes for a photo shoot. Like 3 years ago, I wasn't in a position to be able to make those kind of types of calls. So, thinking about it now, I have come a long way. Especially also with New Release magazine. It was a project that I jumped onto with my friend as co-creative director, and that was all about like fashion, styling, music, and just pop culture in general. So that's a project that we're still working on. There's a lot, like I'm working on a lot of projects that I pray and hope is going to be successful. But it's just all the work that goes behind the scenes to create that final product that people see on social media. And that's not like, it's not like a click and it's done. Like, it's time. It's investing a lot of time, energy, effort. So yeah.
No, I love it. My mother used to watch the Next Top Model a lot, so she was really invested. One point in time, she was really invested in watching it, and so I used to watch with her, and I was like crazy watching like behind the scenes of all these shows that go on and the photo shoots and the drama.
Yeah, it's real though. That's what actually happens. Like, on photo shoots and with like, I've been blessed to work with some amazing models there, and like, what goes on behind the scenes, like, when you get that wind in the model's hair, like I'm there with like a cardboard going like this to like try and get that effect, or like, some models need to lean back and you're behind the screen like holding them up just to get a shot. Like, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes when it comes to like, photo shoots and things like that. But it's fun. Like, I love it. That's part of my job. I enjoy doing it. That's why for me, I'm not trying to do something. I'm not trying to be someone. I'm doing it because of the pure fact that I love to do it, which makes it easier. When you love what you do, it makes it easier. It doesn't seem like a job.
Yeah, no, I loved it, man. So what was Johnny Biggs Land your first big job of in the industry, or was it something just before that, or what was that?
Yeah. So it was this beginning of this year. I was approached by a modeling agency to be a part, but there was also a lot of other Polynesian guys as well that were approached, and Indigenous Australians as well, that were approached by this agency to be a part of a competition. So we had to submit our portfolios, or like a photo of ourselves, and they picked top 10, and then I was part of that top 10 back in March, February, March. And the winner, I didn't win that, but it was just the exposure. You know, like I was nervous as hell. Like I hadn't done any professional modeling for years. So like, you know, the only modeling I do is like my selfies that I take on Instagram. So when you actually, like when you have no control of the person that's taking a photo of you, you're like, oh man, shit. But that opened up doors for me as well, because they called me back, and they asked me if I wanted to be part of this spring campaign. And I was like, oh, sweet. Like, you know, I didn't win what I was going down for in March, but out of that, I've won in a sense that I was offered an opportunity to model their spring campaign. And then that's how the modeling started coming back up again. But yeah, that's how Johnny Big happened. And, you know, shout out to Johnny Big.
Yeah, now shout out to Johnny Big. I put on a shirt just to, you know, look the part.
Making me look bad.
Now you wear the gold chain like that. No, but
want to take it off?
Talk us through the emotions that came to you when you got their offer.
Oh, my first response, because I emailed her back and I was like I didn't believe it. Like, you know, I was shocked. It took me a while to process it. I emailed it back and I was like, yeah, I'd be really interested. And then she responded, these are the times, these are the dates, and she sent me an itinerary for my flights. And then it just, you know, at the start, I still didn't believe it until I was actually there. Like, that's when it hit me. I was like, man, I'm actually doing this now. And that's when I kind of had a moment to myself when I got to set. I just looked out to the beach and I was like, oh, thank you. Like, I said, thank you, God. Thank you, God, for blessing me with this life. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And just giving thanks, because I'm a religious person. Like, sometimes it doesn't come across because, you know, how we live our lives, but like, I'm a very religious person. So I was just thanking God for the opportunity. And I thank Johnny Big too.
No, I love that. In all things, give thanks to God, and I definitely have that attitude when, you know, receive blessings. That's the first person I always look to the sky, you know, figuratively speaking, just, you know, thanking Heavenly Father for those blessings, because I know it's where it's from. Oh man, I can only imagine. So you're now living this. So how has life changed for you since, you know, becoming, you know, a model for Johnny Biggs, and you know, being invested in the life that you know you find passion and love in?
I don't. It's not much of a change for me. Like, it's exciting. I like to be busy. I like to work. I like doing different projects, and so no, life is still the same. Like my Monday to Friday job. I work for another government agency that you know, I help like Indigenous Australians. It's like finance. So that's my Monday to Friday. And then after that, like everything outside of that, you know, it's the styling or the promotion and events that I work for Full Clip Radio, and they run a lot of events like for R&B and hip hop artists. We had an event a couple of weeks ago for your city where we had a lot of the Brisbane local artists established and up and coming. Like, that was an amazing event, seeing all these artists all together in one event. There was like Enemy, there was The West, there was Ezra James, there was so many people. It was just awesome to see, like, you know, music artists, producers, DJs, promoters, club owners. Like, that's another side of like my life that I love as well, is being exposed to the music creative side of Brisbane. So life isn't any different. You know, I'm still hustling like everybody else, you know, trying to chase that paper, make a living, and just you know, just trying to give back to everybody that's supporting me by by being successful and showing that it wasn't a waste of time. Like it's been worth it.
No, that's awesome, brother. No, I'm happy for you, because it's just seeing you chasing that dream of yours. Because a lot of us Polynesians, we put our dreams on the shelf, which is sad to hear. But like, seeing you chase it, like I said, it gives you like I said before, it gives me motivation to chase mine. But I want to transition into the questions that I received today from some people.
Yeah, it's all good.
One individual asked, "Must be expensive being that bougie. What's your monthly allowance on fashion?"
I'm not gonna lie. I spend a lot on my wardrobe. Um, so I can't really put give a amount or a figure. Um, but I worked hard to be where I am. So for me, spending money on my clothes and my shoes, and that's I'm rewarding myself. That's my reward is growing my wardrobe.
Yeah, I'm sure this person knows you. So I just don't want to say names because, yeah, just in case.
Yeah, I was like, I'm sure I'm gonna get some smart ass questions like.
Yeah. Okay. Where do you plan to go once the borders open?
I want to go back to New Zealand. I want to go see my nana. That's that's the only place I really want to go right now. Just want to see her.
Uh, who inspires you?
Um, I think for me, and see, this question always throws me off there because there's so many inspirations in my life. There's so many people that I aspire to be. But I guess for me, it would be my mum and dad. They're my inspiration in life. They're who they inspire me to be better, so that my siblings have a role model to look up to be that role model for my siblings, so that they can look up to me and be like, oh, if Eric can do it, we can do it too. Um, yeah, not that my parents that they are who inspire me in life, and Beyonce, but that's different.
Beyonce. That's awesome. Um, who would you like to work with one day? Label, fashion.
I don't know. There's um, so many people that I want to work with. I guess I'm just grateful to be able to work with anyone that comes my way. You know what I mean? Essentially, I love my high fashion streetwear. Like, I'd love to work with I'd like to work with labels that need help with elevating their looks. Because there's Brisbane is, and I guess Australia in a way, when it comes to streetwear fashion, it's quite flat. Like there's not many options. Everything's the same here. Like they, there's, I don't believe that there is such a high fashion streetwear in Australia yet. And there's a lot of streetwear labels like Culture Kings, like they do streetwear. Um, yeah, no, this urban wear as well. Universal, they I would love to work with those types of brands and those designers to elevate their looks, to help create something that isn't out right now. So I guess starting in Australia, like Culture Kings, Urban, those types of designers that they work with, and those brands that they sell in their stores. So Culture Kings, Urban Wear, Universal, can't think of many right now. And obviously in the future, God willing, working for like Gucci or like Louis Vuitton, Marc Jacobs, those high-end labels. So that's the dream.
No,
See how it goes.
that's awesome. I definitely believe you can do it, man. Just seeing what you've done so far. Those are great heights that you've reached so far. So definitely support
Thanks, man.
you, bro. Um, so I just want to transition to a more, how would you say it? It's a topic that we're getting a lot better with in our community, but something that I still feel we struggle with. Now I'd spoken to you before we had jumped on about where you are with your sexuality and things like that, and
Yeah.
yeah, and so I just wanted to talk about that and um, how you've transitioned through life and the obstacles you face with that, and if you're okay speaking about it.
Mm. Um, so like that, to a lot of people, that might be something very difficult to talk about, like sexuality, like it's like, in Polynesian culture, it's like taboo to talk about like sexuality. And like I said before when we were talking about it, like I was approached by another uh, podcast kind of guy, like that does interviews. He wanted me to jump on and talk about my experience. And I think first and foremost, for people out there, there's nothing wrong with you saying no to talking about your sexuality and your emotions and how you feel. You don't have to share it with the world. And that's pretty much how I've kind of lived my life like that. Like I didn't have to share that part of my life. Not that, not that I was trying to hide it or anything like that, but for me, there was so many other factors that came with me if I had to come out as being gay. And I've never publicly said that like until now. So it's kind of it's yeah it's hard to talk about, but at the same time, I think my story is something that other Polynesians may be able to relate to. Like for me, I grew up in like a really religious family, and I'm so grateful to be raised that way because it's helped me to be the person that I am today. And also being a very religious person, um, like that, me growing up, I never wanted to be gay. Like, that wasn't like, that's just not how I saw my life ever. But then um, growing up, things started to change. I started noticing things. And, that's when I started to, I guess, experience and explore my sexuality. And that came a lot later in life for me, like between like my 19 and 20, like early 20s. So like I was still trying to find myself. Like I felt so lost in that part of my life with my sexuality, that it was kind of I didn't know what to do. Obviously, I had friends and family that had already known at the time, and for me, that was all I needed. I never had any pressure to talk about it, and I didn't feel the need that I had to talk about it. Fast forward to now, like last year, I came out to my parents, and with Polynesian people, for me, my parents is all that matters to me in life. Like, their happiness and I like their feelings and their emotions. I protect that with my life. Like, I don't want to hurt them, and no Polynesian kid wants to hurt their parents. So that was a big thing for me and also for my family. But obviously, me coming out was kind of like a shock. In the moment, it was like a disappointment to them, which I totally agree. I supported my parents 100% with the decision that they made at the time when I had told them. And I was trying to balance my own feelings and my parents' feelings and making sure that we could all, come together and just be cordial with each other. And I'm so blessed that it is like that. I have so much love in my life. Like my parents still love me. I love my parents. Like nothing for me has changed when it comes to my relationship with my mom and dad. And I guess like, not many Islanders has that same story. I consider my story, well, my coming out, I wouldn't say it was easy. It was emotionally challenging. But it's at the same time, it's only because, my parents being religious as well, they prayed on it a lot. I prayed on it a lot. We all prayed about it. So being Christians, my parents were like, we love you regardless of your decision. It's not what they want for me, but they love me regardless. And that's all I wanted from them was their love. So, and that's where I am now.
Honestly, I just want to say, I'm so much respect for you right now, for sharing that, eh? And like you said, you don't have to talk about it. You don't have to share with the world your personal sexuality. Like, but honestly, I'm just feeling so much respect for you right now for coming out and
Oh, thanks.
having that courage to do it, because I can only imagine the things that go on and that on that side and that community, eh? Um,
Mm.
but
I
that's
think it's also timing, like timing for people. Everybody has it. Everybody has their time. And I kind of like when I met my partner now, that's when I knew that, okay, this is who I am. So I need to, I can't live a lie now, because it's too difficult. So I had to make the decision to come out. But that's only because I found someone that I wanted to be with. Otherwise, if I hadn't, some of my girlfriends, they'll be like, so are you gay, are you bi, are you straight? People didn't really know, or people would be asking other people if they knew. But that's only because I've never really officially spoken about it. But now everybody knows. Thanks.
I love your humor in it, eh? But just to give you a little backstory about myself. So I grew up, in that lifestyle as well. Like you said, religious, and it was definitely pushed upon me that was wrong growing up, and so I had this mindset and I was fixated on it that it was wrong, and so when I saw it, like I gotta admit, it really made me angry. And in
Oh
college,
yeah.
so when we have PE, we go to the locker room after we get changed, and we would do that in PE, and I had found out that one of the boys, he came out as an open, he was open about being gay, and
Mm.
again, just that feeling of frustration, and I harbored this feeling, this unknown feeling as to something I had no understanding of, and
Yeah.
it wasn't until recently, like I had opened my eyes to the reality of what it is. These people are human beings, and to feel that way
Mm.
towards a person because of that reason is just like the toxic feeling wasn't that behavior was within myself, my mindset,
Yeah.
and I honestly just had this big crash of guilt come to me, like because I had made an adamant to that person that I never
Mm.
wanted to get changed in front of him, and I didn't want him around, and I was like, it still brings me feelings of guilt to this day, and I feel sad. Like I wish I could reach out to that brother and just be like, I'm sorry for having just having those wrong behaviors, showing to him when I really should have just opened my arms and treated him just as like anyone else. But
Mm.
with this platform, I really want to make it clear that none of that is accepted on this platform, and that us as
Mm.
Polynesians, and especially for myself, I accept everyone as who they really are, and that's who you really are.
Thanks, man. That's awesome. I think it's the subject is something that we don't really talk about. Including myself, I don't really talk about it as well. Um, but with religion and how that comes into play with sexuality, obviously, there is people like to pick and choose what scriptures they like to take out of the Bible and throw it in people's faces. But for me, at the end of the day, being a Christian is also being a good human being. And it was, like you said, it was hard for me as well. I was like, I can't be like that because that's against my religion. And then you grow up, I grew up and that's how I always felt like, no, that's wrong. And then it wasn't until I started, having feelings for the same sex that I started thinking, is it wrong for someone to be happy? Like, it's only because of what people feel and how they react to these types of situations that can be, dangerous. And when I say dangerous, it's more like an emotional scar for people, and that's what they pass on to their children, and their children pass on to their children, and it's hate, and hate is dangerous because that's why it's so important to for kids to grow up to learn to respect each other, learn to understand one another, because like I didn't go through, like you're talking about your friend, like I fortunately for me I didn't have to go through those types of situations, and I'm so my story for me is totally different to a lot of stories that I've heard about other gay Polynesians, and they're coming out and how they've been disconnected and disowned from their families, like friends turning on them, and like there's also the bullying side of things, the physical abuse that they've endured because of who they are, even as adults. Like, man, I can honestly say I did not go through any of that. So for me, like trying to sharing my story, it's all about making sure that, like, yeah, you come out when you're ready to come out, and when you do come out as Polynesians, there are other aspects of our lives that we need to consider before deciding to do something like that. For me, it was making sure that I was financially stable. For me, it was making sure that my family were going to be okay, that I was emotionally strong enough to be able to handle any backlash that I might get for coming out to my mum and dad. For me, it was also making sure that my siblings were okay. Like there's a lot of factors that I took into account when it was time for me to come out, and I just handled it very differently. Like I texted my parents. Like that's how I texted my mom, and then she texted me back, and then I gave them a month. I gave them a month just to think about it, pray on it, and just let them soak it in. So I gave them a month. I went home a month later, and then as soon as I walked in, I just started crying. Like I didn't know what to expect. I just started crying. My dad hugged me. He said he loved me. And that's not what they want, but they still love me. And then we all just prayed. But it wasn't praying like for me to change who I was. It was just praying for me to make the right decisions in life, and that I'm safe, because I'm not living at home anymore. Like even though I'm not living at home now, my parents still tell me come back home. You can always come back home. So I think going back to the whole like how people view it, they just got to have an open mind, because imagine if it was think of it as like if your brother was like that or your sister was like that and people were bullying your brothers and sisters, like how would you feel? Like, you know what I mean? They need support. They need to know that people still respect, love, and care for them as well, for who they choose to be. But it's not easy. Like it's not easy. Like it's easy to say it out like this, but it's so much different when you have to apply it, when you're confronted with the situation and having to deal with it at that time. So congrats to you for like being able to accept it and talk about it openly as a straight male, because it's not many guys can do that. Even though I have a lot of straight friends as well, like straight guy friends that I hang out with, like my cousins, man, like the South Auckland kind of like the whole stereotype of South Auckland being like gangster. Like I've got a lot of those types of cousins, like gangster types of cousins. Then you've got me at a party playing techno music while everyone's like listening to like Biggie and Tupac and stuff. So it's just having an open heart,
No, yeah, honestly, like again, I'm really grateful that I was able to open my eyes, because I've met ever since I opened my eyes, I was able to meet so like amazing people who are gay, and like honestly, like we just we're just having conversations. We have conversations. We hang out just like normal people, and I don't feel any sort of way. Like it's never awkward, and all the just I had so many misconceptions um of like being around gay people. Like the gay people that I hang around with, like my manager for work, one of my managers for work, he's gay, and like he always tells me like we're hanging out, it's just like I don't think that I'll ever like you. You're ugly. I'm like,
See that? Like, being able to joke,
yeah,
like joke and just have fun about it.
yeah,
Gay people always value at parties, because you can mock them and have a laugh with them and they don't take it personally. And then they're good at throwing like shade and jokes back at you. Like
yes.
they do not care who they are, like, laughing at or joking about, which is really cool.
No, but so like how if you don't mind, like how big of a part or what part has your partner has played in your life, like supporting you behind the scenes and all those things.
I think for me, because it was two different cultures like coming together, because my partner's Australian, I'm Samoan. So for me, it was educating both my parents and then also educating my partner on our culture. Because I can tell you now, if you're with a Polynesian, it ain't fucking easy. Like there's so much more that comes with the person. Like, with the Polynesian, like you've got the family that comes with it as well. And being the eldest, there's also that responsibility of taking care of my family, and that's something that I know that I will always make sure that I do as the eldest, as an older brother, to make sure that I still look after my family, look after my parents, look after my brothers and sisters, and it's just, yeah, it was just educating my partner on it as well. Like we still like have debates, like arguments, like, because it's so different. It's a cultural shock for him. Like he's like, what, like I don't know, but for me it's like, he doesn't get the money side of things when it comes to Polynesians as well. Um, we don't really have that kind of like we don't have fight like lovers all the time kind of thing like that. So it's a little different for us. But I remember the first time we had one, he's like, but you don't even know them, and I'm like, yeah, I know I don't know them, but I can't say no. I got to give money. So like it's those types of situations that he's learning, like, he's starting to understand now, and he values how much my family means to me, and my role as the eldest in my family. So yeah, it's a balancing act, and it's every day. So it's yeah. See, I think for me, like now that we're talking about it, the hardest part for me was not me coming out. The hardest part was my mom and dad, and then my partner, and trying to get everyone to like come together, like kind of thing. That was the hardest part for me. But yeah, it's just educating and learning.
So how is the dynamics now, like with your partner and your family? Do like everything okay over there?
Yeah, it's good. Like we'll go play pool table at my dad's, have a drink with him. Um, like we had Christmas together with my cousins and my parents at their house last year. So things are good. I'm very grateful and thankful that it all worked out for me.
Nah, that's awesome, man. Honestly, I just like grown like a big respect for your family here, because, like you said, it's not that story that you have is not like many others. Unfortunately, unfortunately, others do have that big disconnect with the family, and a lot
Mm.
of friends do turn on them. But to hear your family be the way they are, honestly, big props to your parents for, because it starts from them, eh? Uh, I've honestly just get a great sense of your respect for your family, eh? Like you said, before you came
Mm.
out, you thought about them, you had them in mind, and
Yeah.
that's awesome, man. So, yeah, before we close off, I just wanted to ask, like, what are some things that you feel Polynesians are misunderstood on or misunderstood about?
I think with Polynesians, and how we're viewed in the public, we're just seen as rugby players. Like we all play rugby, but we're all good at sports. Um, if not that, like people are violent, like they're starting fights and things like that. And that was like, back when I was in school in Forest Lake, like that's the kind of sorry, that was the kind of image that we had portrayed about us in the public eye. I mean, I still go to places and I speak to people and they're like, "Oh, you're so different to the normal Polynesian person." I'm like, "What's a normal Polynesian like? What's normal? What's a normal Polynesian person?" Go, "Oh, just you speak differently, you dress differently, your mannerisms are different." And like in my mind, I'm like, it's I think it's just how we choose to grow up. Um, like I mean, I grew up like everybody else. I grew up in a Polynesian family. I grew up in the church. We all went to school, had an education. My parents sacrificed a lot for me to be, where I am today. And I've carried myself. Like I try to be that image for people that don't know what Polynesians are. I try to be an image for them to be like, oh, they're just not like sports people. You know what I mean? Like there's more to them than just like, being good looking sports people. But I think there's so many amazing like, Polynesian influences that that are making waves in the industries like music, fashion, styling, politics. There's so many successful Polynesians, but the media don't talk about that. Like, and obviously as well as social media don't really support that or give enough credit to those Polynesians and their platforms. But everyone's quick to want to be part of a Polynesian clique. Everybody wants to be part of like a circle with a Polynesian person in it because we're the type of people that are just so open and loving and caring. Like we accept everybody. And that's another thing that people think about Polynesians. We're just happy people. We're loud laughers. We sound like hyenas when we're all laughing together. Like when the cops pull up to your garage, it's not the music that they're coming about. It's our voices. And I think that's another thing that people like love about Polynesian people is how we express our happiness with loud as laughs. Fuck, I feel like I've been talking for ages, eh?
Honestly, that's what I love. Like, I'm a person who's genuinely invested in just listening. I love listening and learning and
Yeah.
having people share their stories. This is what the platform's all about. It's not about me
Mm.
getting on and talking because that's not who I am. I love asking questions and hearing the response and hearing the stories. And I've been really privileged enough to sit in the seat and listen to your life and the journey that you've had. And like again, it's showing like a different side of Polynesians, and
Mm.
that's what I want to showcase is like you said, we're not all rugby players. We're not all these
Yeah.
things. We do different things, and like for yourself, like I really am grateful to have you on and talk about your styling and fashion and things like that because then it opens other avenues for our Polynesians who want to get into different things who don't want to be
Mm.
caged in, but lack the confidence to get to that point. So
Yeah.
honestly, I'm really grateful, Eric, for having you on for your time because like I've gained so much and definitely think about the things that you've said because currently my heart's not in where I am, but like I want to seek to put my heart into a career and put my heart into something that I love and want to do. Wake up every day with that passion to do.
No, but thank you for having me on your channel and your podcast. Like I it's like just hearing me speak like in my own mind, like what I'm saying. It's like I never would have thought that I'd be speaking on it. Like so thank you for allowing me to show my vulnerability um, that not many people get to see because obviously I'm just a bit of a joker. I don't take life seriously, but I think there's meaning to everything that we do as Polynesians. For me, it's making sure that I make my family proud. and leaving that legacy behind when when we all leave this earth. But thank you, and thank you. I have so much respect for you for allowing me to, share your podcast with you, and the questions that you've asked. Thank you. I appreciate it, and I have so much respect for you. So thank you again.
No, thank you so much, brother. And honestly, God's blessings upon you and your future endeavors. I fully support you and where you're chasing and the things that you're doing. Again, it's opening those pathways and those avenues for our opponent just to see that you don't have to chase the football route. You don't have to chase that if your heart isn't in it. You want to seek other avenues. Thank you again, brother. Honestly, grateful.
Thank you. Oh, that was another thing. Not all gay people are the same, eh? Like, like when you think of a gay person, like this isn't like an image of a gay person. You know what I mean? Like everyone's different. Everyone has this kind of like, oh, that's that type. But we're not all like that type that everyone doesn't like. Nah.
No, I love that. Thank you again for showing that vulnerability, brother. Honestly, like it's that in itself takes a lot of courage, and I always have respect for men and people in general who open themselves up to showcase their vulnerability, because it's not easy.
Yeah. Thanks, man.